I've lived in this shed for the last year. But why?
Was it worth it? And has the tiny house movement gone too far? Let's find out. And while we're at it, let's see if we can get rid of the sink that's been living in the shower for the last 6 months. And full disclosure, I do own the house that this shed belongs to, so I'm not just squatting somewhere random. So let me explain the 4 reasons why I decided to trade that 3-bed house for this 100 square foot shed in my back garden. That still sounds so ridiculous. Number 1, renovation. The main house has had loads of work done to it this year, getting it ready to be able to rent it out whilst I go traveling. So having a space away from all of the chaos was super important to me. Reason number 2, profit. If you watch my tour video, then you'll know that renovating this space cost me about £10,000, but it added £30,000 of value to the property itself, essentially by adding a 4th bedroom outside. And yes, before you ask, I got full planning permission before starting any of this work, but make sure you check the regulations in your own country because it may be different for you. Reason number 3, reduce possessions. I've never really let material possessions provide me any real value, but when I have the space, I still often find myself filling it with things that I probably don't want and certainly don't need. The shed was an opportunity to go through everything that I owned and keep only the things that I truly needed. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, well, that's all well and good, but you definitely could have lived in a house at the same time, then you're absolutely right. And that brings me on to point number 4, productivity. Imagine if you lived in a space with so few distractions, minimal possessions, and you could spend the least amount of time cleaning and doing chores and the most amount of time working on your goals and following your dreams. Would you do it? Well, that was the plan at the start at least, and half the reason that I didn't add that much storage to this space. Well, that and the fact that I do live in a shed, so there really wasn't that many options to begin with for storage. I also added this giant whiteboard wall for maximum output and creativity to help me climb hypothetical mountains, fulfilling all my dreams along the way and unlocking my third eye. But the truth is, after 2 whole months of living here, I hadn't done a single thing. Don't get me wrong, I was still working my full-time job during the day and daydreaming about all of the things that I was going to do that evening. But then when the evening came round, I found myself sitting on the sofa, playing games, watching TV, and doing anything possible to avoid starting the things I've been telling myself all day that I would do. And it was around this 2-month mark that I looked myself in the mirror and told myself that
This year is going to be over so fast and you've got nothing to show for it.
I gave myself 2 options. Continue down the path of least resistance, putting off projects and living the rest of my life wondering what might have been, or realizing that I will likely never have an opportunity like this again and really going after it. I chose option 2, and knowing now that it wasn't going to be as easy as I first thought, I took the time to reflect on the first 2 months and realized that fear, overwhelm, and too many projects were the main cause of my procrastination. So I decided to narrow my focus and take baby steps. 1 project, 15 minutes a day, building up over time to 2 hours a day. And it started working. Not always every day, but I saw when I was going off track a lot sooner, and I took action to fix it. 2 months later, and my first project was complete. It was my first YouTube video, showing the process of renovating this shed into what it is today. And it took off. 1 million views, over 6,000 subscribers, monetization unlocked, and my first YouTube payslip. I was climbing the hypothetical mountain, achieved my first dream to release a YouTube video, and I could feel my third eye opening as I rose up to greet the productivity gods and be accepted as one of their own. Yeah, I went straight back to doing nothing for the next 2 months. It was at this point that I realized the importance of taking breaks when you live in a space this small. I was sometimes spending 23 hours a day here, which can quickly take a toll on your mental health if you're not careful. So I did what anyone would do in this situation, and I moved out for a month.
To Barcelona.
Okay, admittedly this was with work, but it turned out to be the perfect break from living in the shed. Although the apartment really wasn't that much bigger. I actually moved out twice to take a break during this last year, which really did help a lot, especially when the shed literally has only 1 window which looks out onto 2 brick walls. But in the end, I did manage to release a second YouTube video that completely blew away my expectations. I actually started and cancelled a further 2 videos, which I'll go into more details on in a future video. And I also trained for and completed a 100-mile bike ride and a 2-mile swim. So all in all, pretty successful. However, there has been one major problem that has stuck with me the entire time that I've been here, and I think has been a big contributing factor for why I haven't done as much as I'd hoped. You see, all of these shots so far has made the space seem really clean and organized and put together, but in reality, it looks a little bit more like this. It has become a huge obstacle, as every time I want to record some footage, I need to hide everything first, which normally ends up in the bathroom, which then means I can't use the bathroom until I'm done filming, and I put everything back again. I found that being in a messy and cluttered environment can lead to a messy and cluttered mindset, and just some of the stuff I have in here is absolutely insane. an indoor bike trainer, crutches, and even a spare sink. Do I not know that I live in a shed? But I guess that's just what happens. We accumulate stuff without even realizing it, leaving things to sort out later, and then never actually sorting it out. Even in this tiny space, I've found places for all of this extra stuff to go, so that it's just enough out of the way that I never need to move it to live here. Apart from the sink. I need to move that a lot. I'm super interested to see how much stuff I have in here, how much of it I've never used, and whether I can reduce it down so that I never have to share my desk with an indoor bike trainer ever again. Time-lapse time. Well, I guess there's no going back now. Let's take a look and see just how much stuff I have in here. Okay, so the total number of items in this shed, excluding consumables like food and medicine, comes to a grand total of 708. 47 of them will now be recycled, with a further 91 being donated. I'll be looking to sell 37 items, meaning that I'm going to be removing 175 items in total, or around 25% of my stuff. But if you're wondering about how many things I've never used during my time here, well, let's have a look. 206. Wow, that is 30% of my stuff that I've never used during my time here. That is absolutely insane. All right, let's get this all outside and take it to some charity shops. Safety first. All right, so whilst I deal with that up there, I want to take a minute to talk to you about some of the things that really surprised me about living in a shed. Well, number one, being laziness. As I mentioned earlier, I thought this space was going to be a productive haven, and at times it really was. But for certain things, I got incredibly lazy. For example, I used to have to walk across the house, down the stairs, across the kitchen whenever I wanted to get some water. And now I'm literally one step away from water in the shed, yet I've drank less throughout the day here than any other day that I lived in a house. And it wasn't just water. Being in such a small space, missing just one single washing up session meant the entire place looked an absolute state. Now, my girlfriend did try and warn me that this space would get messy quickly, but I always thought that it would only ever take a couple of minutes to clean up and it would be easy enough to keep on top of. But in those moments, I always found my laziness far outweighing my discipline as the mess continued to pile up. Oh yeah, can I drop these off, please? Yeah. Amazing, thank you so much. The second surprising thing was filling space. I genuinely thought I would buy virtually nothing this year. However, I was shocked at how easy it has been to bring new items into the shed without having to get rid of something else in its place. The fact that I lived with an indoor bike trainer for 8 months when I only needed it for 1 really sums it up. And the final surprise was spiders. I hate spiders, and the shed is typically full of them, so I knew that at some point I'd have to deal with them. But I was surprised at just how well I managed this. Don't get me wrong, I still hate spiders, but at least now I can put a cup over the top of them, slide some paper underneath, and throw them out the window. Quickly. As I arrived back home to tidy this space one last time, I found myself wondering whether this journey was truly worthwhile and if I gained everything I hoped from my time here. It's now abundantly clear to me that embracing a minimalist lifestyle within a confined space is not only feasible, but it can be liberating too. But it's probably not for everyone. And reflecting on my journey, I realized that the ability to achieve your dreams is not tied to the amount of material possessions you have or the size of the environment you are in. What truly matters is taking action. Now, I did achieve a lot this year, but I also spent months procrastinating, making zero progress towards my goals. I found that even when removing a lot of possessions and physical distractions, if I wanted to be distracted, I always found a way. I replaced physical distractions with digital ones, TV, video games, and watching YouTube, all so that I could put off doing the things I've been dreaming of doing all along. So whether it's 15-minute daily strides or a strategy that works best for you, it's this small, consistent progress that helps us become who we want to be. I realize now that no one is going to do it for you. So why not embrace the challenge, break free from distractions, and keep moving forward? Because who knows what's waiting on the other side.